what's up, everybody? We are bringing Courtney back. Sometimes OBS crashes, and that's what happens. But she is with us, no worries. What's up, Courtney?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming back on. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I had an interview with Jakob Nordengard this morning. So, well,
I don't know who that is, but that's a strange name that sounds important.
he's Swedish. He was in our Omnivore symposium, and he did an incredible presentation on the spiritual elements of technocracy.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Courtney's back, everybody, and what we're going to do is we're going to have the first hour today talking with her, highlighting her new book, and then I'm going to transition into the rest of what we're going to talk about in today's live stream. So we should get a pretty good audience today. If you would hit like and share. We do have super chats in the Streamlabs link at the top there, pinned. Well, I had it pinned, and it's not pinned anymore, but you can also support through YouTube. If you want to leave a YouTube super chat, you can as well, but preferably Streamlabs because they don't take a cut, and YouTube does. And we don't want to pay the technocrats. We don't want to pay Jeffrey Bezos. But Courtney, your book is on Amazon. I've got it linked. Is there a different place that you want people to get it, like I do, or is it just Amazon? Where do we get the book?
So Amazon is a great place to leave a 5-star review. We do have a paperback and a Kindle option. You can also leave a 5-star review on Goodreads. But we have some options for people who would like to avoid Amazon, and that is technocracy.news at the store. And this is the best place to get multiple copies because you'll get a great discount if you buy 2 or more. And then we also have books.by/Patrick Wood. And this is it's a great place for everybody, but it's a particularly great place for people who are not in the United States who want to avoid the exorbitant shipping fees and the tariffs. So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jamie was taking a load of my books the other day to ship, and the post office said basically we can't even send anything to Canada. So anybody ordering from Canada, the mailing, it's on pause. So don't worry, you will get your Canadian books eventually, hopefully. But you can blame your socialist prime minister, your Fabian socialist elites that run your countries. Now, Courtney is fast becoming, I think, one of the top tier go-to people for understanding technocracy, where they're going, what the overall game plan is. She put so much time and effort into really going hardcore on this stuff. So I'm looking forward to this book. I'm going to purchase it. And it's a cautionary tale, you said, because I know from reading, Patrick Wood over the years and going back, reading his Technocracy trilogy back in the day. And I'm glad that you linked up to make this book with him. Before we get into the specifics, how did this come about? And then what's the overall sort of approach that you guys took in this book? Sometimes co-author books I would think are difficult, but maybe it wasn't difficult.
It was actually super smooth. This was a fantastic collaboration. We gave each other deadlines, and we work really, really well together. So I've known him for several years now, and I've been following his work, and I've had him on my show. And then I had done we started a roundtable, Technocracy roundtable, with Aaron Day and Craig Wenkelwicks. And he asked me to host the Omnivore Symposium. And through a bunch of discussions, he had been planning to write another book. And he asked me if I would want to collaborate with him. And I was like, absolutely. I didn't really think much about it. I was super excited. And we started he really wanted this to be a very short book. This was actually longer, and it's still a really short book. A lot of it is the footnotes. We didn't do footnotes. We just did references because we didn't want to distract the readers. So they're Chicago style references. But actually, that takes a lot of the book. So it is actually still a very short book, but not nearly as short as he wanted. His whole thought process is that he wants it to get into the hands of as many people as possible. And unfortunately, people don't really read tomes anymore today. And a tome seems to be like 250 pages. It's not really even a tome, that's just the tragedies of our time. So yeah, so he wanted, so each, it's written, like each chapter is a standalone essay, but of course there's a central theme. And really the concept is that the premise of MAGA, Make America Great Again, is not something I object to. I mean, that sounds great. I'm all on board with Make America Great Again. I'm all on board with MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Who argues with that? I think, getting rid of seed oils and all the fake food and the big pharma push, that's a great. MABA is not as exciting to me, which is Make America Biotech Accelerate. And so he actually says accelerate in the name, in the acronym. So essentially, our thesis is that people who were voting for and who were caught up in this Maha movement were thinking they were going to get some sort of a restoration, something that would bring us closer to American founding principles and get away from the direction that we've been heading towards this socialist, globalist, and really technocratic is the real end goal, at least in my opinion. And instead, what they did was kind of harness that energy and use it to, instead of reform Washington, D.C. and restore some power to we the people, they gave it all to Silicon Valley. And that's really not what most people thought they were voting for. So we wanted people to, we say it's a cautionary tale, because not so much that it's a fictional kind of a story, but more that a lot of people don't know the regulatory infrastructure that is being implemented, and they don't know the technologies that are being empowered currently. And so we wanted people to be aware of that, because you can't defeat a threat that you don't know exists. And, the hope is that in the process of getting this information out to people, maybe people will start to push back, because a lot of them, I think especially the Maha crowd, are very busy cheering, right? They think they've won. Some people have kind of a deification of Trump and think he's their savior. He can do no wrong. I think the QAnon movement was partly to blame for that. Not that everybody who's Maha is Q, not saying that, but there is definitely that kind of sentiment. It's I don't need to tell you or your audience, but sometimes it gets a little like football, team sports, and they think their team has won and they don't need to do anything. They can just sit back, trust the plan. And we wanted to let really them know. I mean, it's for everybody and not even just Americans, because actually what you really see is this interesting dialectic. There are so many dialectics, but we were told that we were going to fight the globalists, right? That's what Trump kept saying. We're going to fight the globalists. And what he really seemed to mean by that, if you read his One Big Beautiful Bill and his AI action plan, was yeah, we're going to fight the globalists, at least, ostensibly, but we're going to build the stack that will create the infrastructure and all the technology that the globalists will use, and we'll run the technate from America. So essentially, we will be the controlling global empire. And yeah, I don't think that's what people thought they were voting for either.
Yeah, like the description of the book says that people thought, oh, we won the Cold War, communism, socialism, in the Second World War, fascism, those were all defeated. But really, what was reintroduced, as the description says, in 1973, the Trilateral Commission announced a new international economic order, which has basically the technate, or the technocracy, as you said, as its underlying ideology. And the book says the dark enlightenment then of people like Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin has this idea of returning us to a monarchy. And I want to be clear, nothing to do really with Christianity, in my view, or Orthodox Christianity, but perhaps some synthetic or simulated or technocratic version of Christianity or something. We've seen Peter Thiel recently talking about supposed Christianity lectures, or I'm not exactly sure what he thinks Christianity is, but it comes from these sort of,
Doesn't sound biblical. I
yeah,
can
these
tell you
sort
that.
of allegorical, Jordan Peterson style presentations of Rene Girard's theology. So you say that, or the description says, tokenization is flipping us into an asset-based economic system, where, as Klaus noted, you will own nothing and you will be happy. So AI is rolling out. We know that there is this massive push that Trump talked about with Larry Ellison and others to have this gigantic, future zillion-dollar AI infrastructure that they're going to roll out. And this is the problem: is that people think, well, because Trump has some good ideas, like maybe he's going to Christianize the technocracy. So why don't you start by telling us what's the problem with the idea that, well, why can't we just have a Christian version of technocracy? I mean, I'm going to answer with my critiques, but I want to hear what you and Patrick Wood think is the problem with this idea.
Well, we do have a whole chapter in the book on the rise of state religion and this movement that is co-opting. I call it Christianese. So they speak in Christian sounding language, but it's not biblically rooted at all. And there are a couple of different factions of this. They're not all the same, but they're steering towards the same place. They have this shared telos, and they're oftentimes working hand in hand. They scratch each other's back when it's conducive to their end goals. But we've got like the NAR movement, which is the New Apostolic Reformation, and they believe in the Seven Mountain Mandate. And this is really influential on the Trump administration. This is actually a huge part, I think, of what's going on with the turning point. I think it was always the plan, but I certainly think now that's in full force. And some of them even say that Charlie was an apostle.
Oh, interesting. Now, I don't mean to cut you off, but could you help me understand what this is new to me? What is this, the Seven Mountain Mandate? What is that?
So the Seven Mountain Mandates is this idea that they believe that there are the seven pillars of society, and I'm probably not going to remember all of them, but it's like this ain't the long march through the institutions. It's the same kind of idea, like the legal, education, media, entertainment.
So all areas of society, basically, that's the mountains.
Yes. So they believe that they need to take over all those areas, and then they will bring about the Antichrist. They can bring, yeah, it's all about everything is it's all the same language about the end times and the Antichrist that Thiel talks about. What Peter Thiel talks about.
Well, surely they're not going to openly say they're bringing about Antichrist. What do you mean? Like, so that this is like evangelical dominion mandate theology? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly what it is. Yeah, it's exactly. So they believe they need to, have dominion over all of these spheres, and so they can bring heaven on earth. Right? That's their whole premise. But yeah, Peter Thiel actually says that in his Acts 17 lectures, I think there were 4 lectures. They were each 2 hours long. But the main takeaway is that anybody who puts any restraints on AI is the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. So I guess Trump.
Wait, so the point of his lectures was actually that putting restraint on AI is somehow Antichrist. But did you get this? Like, how does he come? I mean, I don't believe that, but I'm saying, like, how could you even argue that? Like, how did he come to that conclusion? Like, what is the line of argument there? I don't get it.
So it's an Antichrist and Armageddon, and he thinks that the other alternative is that we're going to have this globalization. It's going to be like the Greta Thunberg is like the Antichrist, the other Antichrist. She's going to.
Yeah, I remember him saying that. Oh, so he's saying we've all got a race to control AI, and if we don't get a Christian version of it, they will win, and it will be a collectivist Greta AI. Is that what he's saying?
He doesn't say that's going to be AI, Greta, because he says that they're against AI, which is actually not true. It doesn't even.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, because if you actually look at what the environmentalists are doing, they're advancing AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Green, but the difference is they're much more clever with their marketing. They're a little bit more deceptive. I just put out an article on Homo autocatalyticus versus Homo amor.
Yeah, I've got this pulled up. Yeah.
Okay, and they love to make up their own language. Just for people reading things. I know you and your audience are familiar, but like it's not that complicated. It's like reading Heidegger. I know he wrote in German. We're reading the translation, but he made up all of his own words to make things sound way more
Yeah, this
complicated,
is
right?
a classic trick of philosophers, especially ones that get really kind of big and full of themselves. You create neologisms because then it sounds very, sophisticated and, oh, you don't understand, Heidegger's sense of Dasein, you know what I mean? Like so you have to go learn this new language almost. But that's a kind
Well,
of
it
that's
also
a classic
distracts.
philosophical sort of dork trick.
Yes, as Nietzsche said, they muddy the waters to make it seem deep. I think he was
Yeah,
projecting there. Yeah.
exactly.
It's also a great distraction. You're so busy trying to learn this new language that you're not actually confronting the material. So I just say that because like Homo amor and Homo autocatalyticus sounds very fancy, but really both of them are paths towards post-humanism, not even transhumanism. It's post-humanism. And Nick Land really embraced. He's the one who came up with Homo autocatalyticus, which he actually didn't come up with. It was John H. Campbell, who is a chemist. It's like a concept from chemistry, but he adopted this into machine technology and AI and recursive type of machine processes. But anyway, I bring it up just because the Homo amor, it comes out of David Temple. And these are the environmentalists. They're the Gaia worshippers. And David Temple is a pseudonym for Zach Stein, who was just inducted to the Club of Rome last year. Daniel Schmachtenberger, who I've talked to you about before. He's a Game B proponent. He's also he's like a co-founder of what was Neurohacker Collective. It's now called Qualia Life, right? And then the Consilience Project also. And then, of course, Kenneth Wilber, who I am sure you're familiar with, integral theory and all of that. But anyway, they make up David Temple, and I always get a kick out of it because the reason they picked David Temple was because they didn't want it to be egoistic. And meanwhile, they have this whole concept of anthro-ontology where they literally rewrite the story of the universe and they think they co-create with God, but that's not hubristic at all. Thank goodness they decided to have one pseudonym so they, obliterate any ego. Um, but anyway, in that they're much more deceptive. They talk about how we have to be very cautious about AI. We have to be very cautious about techno-feudal system. But what are they doing? They're actually fomenting it. They're creating it. And they're just doing it under the guise of love and light and, creating collective intelligence that's all geared towards it's a noosphere, but it's a radical love affair with the universe. So it sounds very poetic and beautiful. Whereas the Dark Enlightenment, they're much more,
So it's just a,
blunt.
a Coomer Gooner universe versus like Terminator universe.
Yes, exactly. But the Dark Enlightenment, they're pretty blunt. They let you know, and that's what I see happening really with like Trump, and they claim that and what Peter Thiel's talking about, like so that the Greta Thunberg isn't really against technocracy. They just claim that they are. They're much more cloaked about it. So yeah, but that's what he's saying. He's saying that anybody puts any restraints, that's the Antichrist, is the curtailing of AI. Because remember, he says that the biggest problem we face today is that since the 70s, we've been in a time of stagnation. And so this lack of progress is our big problem. This is, the devastation of humanity is the stagnation. And so we can't restrain AI because now we're just, accentuating this stagnation. And so that's really the Antichrist that we need to worry about. And it looks like, there is that whole Constance Cumby would always tell me that Trump was the Antichrist. And at the time I kind of was like, okay, she sent me home with 10 books and she said, these are required reading. They're all on Trump being the Antichrist. So when you're done, I've got 10 more for you on Trump being the Antichrist. And my husband and I kind of looked at each other, like, kind of chuckled a little bit. And we heard him talk recently about, the Middle East, and he keeps talking about peace. I mean, not that he's not fomenting war, but he keeps saying peace and all this rhetoric. And we looked at each other, we're like, maybe he is the Antichrist. I don't know. I am not saying he is, but I do think that he's trying to prove that he's not by aligning with Peter Thiel, and he's ensuring that there is no restraint of artificial intelligence, and that's what his AI action plan is all about. That's what the one big beautiful bill is all about. And
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not aligned with Musk, but he's right that it is, it's a monstrosity. It's also what Senator Ted Cruz, I wrote an article about this too. His Sandbox Act is just to bolster and enhance the deregulation of the AI action plan.
Yeah, I noticed too in the description of the book, it mentions the tokenization aspect. This is fascinating too from a crypto perspective because I follow crypto pretty closely and intently, and I keep up with all the different niches. And within the crypto world, one of the rising emerging markets is RWAs, which is real world assets. And so they're trying to, with various blockchains and networks, tokenize all of reality.
Yep.
And they want to see, for example, Solana wants to corner the market on tokenizing stocks. Ripple's supposed to tokenize and transform the Swift payment network. I don't think, I think, especially Ripple's obviously like a centralized scam in my view. But I think there is a danger in this, the potentiality of this, because if you remember in the third section of Klaus's book, Fourth Industrial Revolution, he actually discusses this, the tokenization of
Yep.
everything and everything through the Internet of Things then being tracked and traced. So tokenization is a type of a scam where everything will be tracked and traced under the guise of emerging markets and all this stuff. So I think a lot of, and even people in the last week have been discussing the possibility that AI actually might be a giant bubble, much like the .com bubble was an early on bubble. Not that there won't be, you know, real technocratic challenges in companies and all this, but I think Sam Altman was like begging for um, money because they have these projected plans of like trillions of dollars of what they're going to do, but they actually only have a few $billion like actually in the company. So it's like people are starting to think that AI might be a bubble. And just like, the .com, when it popped, it's not that the internet was wrong or bad, or like it's not a failed venture. It's just that there's a giant explosive narrative that builds around the markets, but the tech and the people are not yet ready for where it's at. So then that bubble pops. So even if the AI bubble pops, that doesn't mean like, oh, AI isn't real. It's not a real threat. It just means that there's a giant scam market built around it, and then they will continue forward in the next 20 years with moving it towards whatever they're trying to make it into, which is the global brain, which is all the transhumanist stuff. So, anyway, long story short is that I don't believe that Bitcoin is not part of that idea of tokenizing all of reality and some tracking tracing networks. So I'm still a big proponent of Bitcoin as a real legitimate currency of the future. But the other challenges, the other networks and blockchains are explicitly centralized ideas about tracking and tracing real world assets. And if you look up like various crypto markets, if you go to CoinMarketCap, you can check under the different niches. One of them is RWA, and that's exactly what we're talking about. What's the danger with tokenizing all areas of life?
So there's a lot of danger. As you said, it can be tracked, traced, surveilled, programmed, pre-programmed. I don't know. I don't want to say too much on here, but if you're familiar with biodigital convergence, if you've seen Black Mirror, there is an article. People can look it up. It's several years old now from University of Massachusetts Amherst. And they talk about harnessing using humans essentially like an antenna with 6G. So people can look into that research. I won't expound on that too much for here, but so when you get into that kind of stuff, I mean, that's talking about literally remote control interface, completely programming humans. But beyond that, you don't even need that to get to where it could be very concerning. And you have a complete social credit system. They talk about the UBI, universal basic income, but of course it won't be that. It'll be Elon Musk is saying it's going to be a higher basic income, which is that's not going to be the case. Maybe for certain people, but that's not going to be the case. What it is going to be is a conditionally based income, which is essentially social credit. But you hear people like Larry Fink, right, who has been calling the shots for a
In
very
other
long
words,
time.
you said the word wigger. You are docked this week's paycheck because you don't get your UBI credits because the refrigerator heard you say wigger.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You can't do that, and the refrigerator is watching. They
Yeah,
already
right.
have it, like the ones with the big screens in the front and the
No,
you
they're
know, so the
actually like I saw a refrigerator that was they're already like planning out like it will track the
carbon
groceries
emission.
that are missing and then go ahead and order you like what's missing in the refrigerator.
Yes, and I think this is just stepping stone to, like, carbon emission, carbon usage and credits and that sort of thing, which is straight out of Technocracy Inc., right? They called it, energy credits. I actually got a copy of the, Technocracy study course.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. That's
Hubert.
awesome.
Yeah, I was super excited about it. It was like the one copy I could find, and it wasn't crazy expensive. So, but yeah, so they with the tokenization. So Larry Fink, who has been calling the shots for a really long time, but now he's officially the co-chair of the World Economic Forum. So if anybody had
Yeah,
any
so
doubt.
BlackRock, now World Economic Forum, exactly.
Exactly, and he has written extensively about tokenization. I mean, Besant talks about it a lot too, and they almost look like they're salivating. They're like dogs about to be fed. I mean, when they talk about this sort of thing, they're so excited. And if you remember, when they were trying to, I was screaming about this last year when they were trying to put a new category up on the New York Stock Exchange, the natural asset companies, and well, yeah,
Yeah, I
so
remember you
that
talking about that, yeah.
yeah, so we fortunately enough people sent in comments and they actually did rescind the proposal. That does not mean that this fight is over. They just keep rebranding, they march forward. It's actually called the Sustains Act here in the United States now. I mean, they're definitely still marching ahead. They think they're going to make upwards of $500 quadrillion on this big scam. So I don't think they're leaving that on the table. I don't know how you even quantify $500 quadrillion. It's like a made up number at that point. But it's a similar kind of idea. They're not just talking about tokenizing the
Well,
economy.
maybe if they destroy the dollar through money printing and $1 ends up being the equivalent of a quadrillion dollars because of the, like when the Ugandan currency or the Zimbabwe
Yeah.
currency collapses and like a loaf of bread costs a billion Zimbabwe dollars. Maybe that's how they get to 500 quadrillion, which ends up being like, I don't know, like 5 million or 5 billion in today's current. I'm being silly, but you get the point I'm saying.
Yeah. In that case, maybe. But they're not letting it go. They think they're going to be, very, very wealthy off, and they'll have control over all the Earth's resources, which is the plan, right? Biden called it America the Beautiful, which is really just the 30 by 30 land grab, but that doesn't sound great, so they have to rename it. But that's only a stepping stone to the half Earth agenda, which E.O. Wilson wrote the book on, right? So that's the idea that half of the Earth lands and waters are going to be uninhabitable and untouchable by
Yes.
humans.
In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I have one of his books and I've been meaning to get to that in the Global Elite book series, and I just haven't done it yet because we got so kind of distracted with changing images of man.
I'll want to
And
do that.
Alex was so like, come in studio, come studio, talk about changing images of man. Come down here right now, bring the book.
I can't
So
believe he said that he wasn't familiar with it. Changing images.
I think that he forgot that because people in
Okay.
the comments were saying, "Alex, you
Yeah.
mentioned this book in the past." So like I think he just didn't remember like which text this was because it's so hard. I mean, everybody can get the PDF, but it's just really hard to get a
Yeah.
hold of that book. Now you mentioned Black Mirror, and I want to just really quickly plug that. Guess what? Esoteric Hollywood 3 has
Yeah.
an entire 40-page section, I think, of me covering every episode of the first 3 seasons. So if you are interested in uh, predictive dystopian literature, of course, Courtney's book that's just out in the show description and in the chat, also available at technocracy.news, Patrick Wood's website. It deals with dystopian warnings, but I covered it, as you guys know, from the fiction film perspective. So I did cover all of the pretty wild elements in Black Mirror, which I think we're going on almost maybe 10 years from when Black Mirror first came out. And I think season 1 was really good, and they kind of get progressively worse as the seasons go on. But you guys will remember there is that very predictive episode where I want to say is it White Bear or Be Right Back? No, it's White Bear, I think, where you're um can't remember the name of the episode, but it's the one where the guy has to like ride the exercise bike to.
Ride the bikes, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what
That
that's
that's
what it
like
is, yeah.
tokenization of everything.
That's yeah, exactly. That's exactly the one I was thinking of. Exactly. And they have studies on that. They say it's not very efficient right now, but they do have studies on powering and crypto mining.
Yeah.
So
Also, remember, I forgot. There's also that really good episode in I think season 3 with Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, where
mhm.
everybody's controlled by social media. And if you
Oh,
eventually, have you seen that one?
I don't think I've seen
Oh,
that
this
one.
is one
No.
of the best. You got to watch this one. It's actually
Okay.
as good as the first season episodes, even though it's not really, the season 3 is not that great. But um, Nosedive is a dystopian suburbia controlled by social media. So basically, your class in society is determined by your social credit score. And if you go against society, not only do you eventually get shadow banned in reality, you can actually be put in like prison. So they imprison people for their Facebook posts and that kind of stuff. So that one's really good.
What's
But
happening in the UK?
exactly right, people in the UK are literally being taken to prison for criticizing Islamic invasion, criticizing Fabian socialism. So notice the pattern here, guys, and this is something that Courtney has talked about for a long time too. The Fabian socialist technocratic model is absolutely real. The UK, Australia, Canada, they're all part of that UK British Imperial Commonwealth, which is now openly Fabian socialist. It's
Yes.
not accidental that they're the ones that are imprisoning you for your, Facebook posts or whatever. That's the model for the future.
Yes, and, it's also that model for that, like, this Fabian social ethics. So in that, article that I wrote on the Homo Amor and the Homo Autocatalyticus, I talk about how the, Cosmoerotic humanists are basically using that Fabian socialist ethics, um, blueprint to kind of, soft power influence to condition you into their ethics. Not that we don't want morality and ethics, but it's who's deciding that ethics. It's like the Ben
No,
Gertzel.
yeah, it's Ben Goertzel's. Yeah, we're all just made of like determined molecules, man. We're all just molecules determined by reality. Like Ben Goertzel's like the ultimate sort of DMT bro, transhumanist,
Yes,
materialist guy. And also Klaus's later book, the one I think it was not Industrial Revolution, but the one about the Great Reset. Like that book, he talks about we need a new ethic for the world. The world needs a new covenant, a new ethic, and the new
yep,
covenant, the new ethic, which is weird because it's like biblical terminology again, is
yep.
actually this technocratic ethic, this scarce resources, austerity, green agenda ethic.
Yes. And so Wilson is a huge influence on, I mean, on the Game Bee wiki, it's like E.O. Wilson over and over again. They're really influenced by him. And of course, he's an evolutionary biologist. A lot of them are. And it's all predicated on Malthusianism. So, um, but yeah, so the tokenization is really concerning because a lot of people will argue, well, we're kind of already in a tracked, surveilled, to some extent programmed monetary system, which to some extent is true. I don't deny that. Certainly with the credit cards, I mean, MasterCard and Visa both have like the carbon tracking, and
Yes.
how MasterCard was the first to do their black card where you can opt in and get your, you know, carbon ratings, and so you can opt into your own tyranny if that's your thing. But so we had that to some extent, but the big difference with the tokenization is, one, like the natural asset companies, that's the resources, like tangible resources, but they want to tokenize and commodify. But now they're talking about, it's not just economics and like tangible assets, they want to tokenize everything. So like the healthcare system, the education system, I mean, everything will be tokenized. And this means, like, as you said, you'll own nothing and be happy. I'm not so sure about the be happy part unless we come to love our servitude in Huxley's Brave New World.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
in that case, if we all take our soma, maybe we'll be happy about it. But we are going to be owning nothing. And while we're very close to that right now, I mean, if you use real estate, it's a really good tangible example for people. If you think about real estate in this country, we pay property taxes. So you essentially lease your property from the
Right.
government. You don't really own it.
Which is
Because if you
already, like theft, yeah.
yeah, like if you default on it, they seize your property. But and if you have a mortgage, obviously, that's the death trap, and you're paying into it. But here's the thing: you still have equity, and so like most of this country is predicated on small business. And what do a lot of people use to start a small business? They leverage the equity from their home to start these businesses. When you go to a tokenized economy, now that's not saying tokenization has to work this way, but this is what they're presenting is where the banks are going to own the assets. BlackRock's going to own the assets. You're not going to own the assets. You're
Yeah,
basically
this is
going
the circular
to
economy where you rent your, everything. You're gonna rent your underwear, share it between the neighborhood. You rent I mean, this is I mean, I understand people thought, "Oh, Uber's a great idea," but that was actually preparing the way for you don't need a car. There's no reason for you to have a car. The only people who will have cars, as Harmon, I think, wrote in that 1981 or 2 Millennium paper, it's like, no, there will be essential and non-essential workers, and the only people who need cars will be essential workers.
Yep, that's it. It's totally conditioning. And so when you think about that, then people can't they don't have equity. They can't use that as leverage to start a business. I mean, that's, I think, a really concrete way to think about what this shift does, where people really you don't own anything. You have no assets. And they have complete control. And when you think about the biodigital convergence aspect of it, I mean, to me, that's just transhumanism. It's and technocracy all wrapped in a very dystopian mix.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest one of the biggest, failures with the promises of Trump was that, like you said, fighting globalization, and then it's like just seems to be fully on board with all the technocratic stuff. And when he was talking at the Bitcoin conference, it was like it was a lot of stuff that sounded good, right? It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like never sell your Bitcoin, don't sell your Bitcoin, probably never sell your Bitcoin. Bright future, gonna be a wonderful future. And then it's like now we're gonna tokenize all of reality. Now we're gonna have AI tracking, tracing everything. So, I mean, the there's many places to criticize Trump. This is definitely, I think, one of them. And it's funny that you mentioned this model of like they own everything. If you go back maybe 15 years, John Perkins wrote that book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and he talked about how his job as part of a corporate CIA vulture was to go in and kind of prepare third world countries for the neoliberal sort of takeover where the corporations come in and they basically own everything. And this is like a global version of that. So what the CIA and the corporations would do back then that John Perkins wrote about is like this now global BlackRock World Economic Forum plan where all reality, all assets, all water is tokenized and measured and controlled. That's what Klaus wrote about in the third section of Fourth Industrial Revolution. There's a movie I recommend everybody watch. It's pretty good. I had not seen it for some reason. I didn't even know about it. But Owen Wilson is in a 2012 movie with Pierce Brosnan, and it's about Owen Wilson moving to, I think it's Thailand or some country in Southeast Asia, and he gets there under the guise of being a corporate just engineer, but it turns out his corporation is actually trying to buy the water for like an entire region. So they're going to control all the water,
Uh-huh.
and there's a political revolution because the people are mad at the corporation for it. Long story short, he meets with Pierce Brosnan in the midst of all this chaos and political revolution. And Pierce Brosnan is British intelligence. He says basically, my job is to be a corporate economic vulture. We come in, we prepare the country for political revolution so that the corporation can come in and basically own the water. So, point being, when you see Mamdani elected in New York, when you see
Yep.
revolutions, color revolutions, when you see Fabian socialism in the UK and in Canada, this is not actually for socialism in the long term. It is technocracy in the long term so that BlackRock and all of the World Economic Forum goobers can own everything and then let you rent it. Socialism is the necessary pathway to get to that final stage. And it is not going to be, like Courtney said, where you're actually owning nothing and being happy. It's slavery.
It's slavery. It's total slavery, and of the most insidious and pernicious kind. I mean, I don't want to undermine the atrocities of communism and fascism. They're terrible, but they're nothing compared to technocracy. And I don't think people can even conceive of how dystopian technocracy really is. They haven't experienced it. Trump just did the anti-communism week. It's this week, and I tweeted out. I was like, "Good, maybe next week we'll do anti-technocracy week." I won't hold my breath. And then I wrote under that, and I said, "The Cold War call. They want their playbook back." But
Yeah, exactly. I mean, have you seen that? It's a great German film. It's a kind of an independent film. It's called Das Leben der Anderen, The Lives of Others.
oh, such a good film.
And if you watch it and pay attention and you think about, I think you and I've even talked about this, so forgive me for repeating myself, but you're watching this 80s era Cold War thing play out in East Germany, and the guy has a eventually kind of a change of conscience, the sort of the Stasi guy who's tracking and tracing and spying on these people with all this old, 80s era Soviet technology, East German tech, low tech stuff. And then he realizes like his whole job is to basically just make people miserable, and he's miserable. And then he kind of begins to question at the end, and he ends up, well, I'm not going to spoil the movie if you've never seen it. It's really good, but that
It's
is
really
that is a microcosm, the Stasi approach to what you actually get in terms of the technocratic BlackRock Klaus future. Like that's a global version of this microcosm of the East German Stasi surveilling and controlling and tracking and tracing this couple in the movie. So people need to really understand that that's the real long-term danger here, is going into that kind of a world. And people that have kids, especially, like, you want your kids to grow up in a world where the words that you say are the refrigerator is gonna fine you for what you say. It's just insane.
It's insane. It's yeah, that was a really great movie. I love that movie. Um, I was gonna say about the water. I can't remember if I saw that movie, but it's basically what Nestle did, right? And I feel like Nestle was kind of like a
Yeah, they
pre
probably were basing that movie, yeah, on like what corporate plans were going to be. And if you saw the second Daniel Craig Bond film, Quantum of Solace, is the same plot where the Spectre corporate elites are trying to take over the water in Tanzania or some weird region where they discovered like underwater aquifers, and they basically just want to control the entire country for the water. Originally they think it's over oil, and then there's like this, well, wait a minute, there's no oil here. Well, and then the villain says, don't you understand, Mr. Bond? We work with the fascists, we work with the communists, we work with whoever, so that we can contain, it's basically what Klaus would say, right? It's like they don't care about the
Yeah,
ideology, it's about
yeah,
control at the end of the day, and owning the natural resources in total.
yeah. That's the whole plan, and that was the Trilateral Commission's agenda to create the new economic international world order, and a lot of them were technocrats. So I mean,
Exactly.
we're just seeing the advancement of that now.
All right, well, we've got a few super chats. And guys, if you want to ask Courtney any questions, she's written some really great, really in-depth articles getting deep into Teal, Nick Land, all this kind of stuff. And it's funny because Jamie was reading through the Nick Land book, and she's asking me all these philosophical questions because it's kind of her first philosophy book. And it's a bit of reverse because I've not read this book. Jamie's reading a philosophy book that I haven't read. So we're going to do a podcast where Jamie's read the philosophy and I haven't, and then we're gonna see how that information, or how that podcast transpires. But if you want to
Oh,
ask
fun.
Courtney a question, I put Courtney's Substack in the chat. What's up? What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying that. How fun! That'll be awesome. I look forward to watching that.
Maximus P says for $10, I disagree with nothing. Orthodoxy is true. Bernstein 3040 $5. Jay, love your work. Thank you so much, man. Bird $3. This is a very interesting conversation. Thank you, Bird. Courtney does a lot of really excellent work, and we've been friends for 5 years. I think
Yeah.
20. I met you in 2020. So Courtney and her husband are very good people. We know them in real life. It's not just fake
Yeah.
internet relationships. They're great people. J Mel $10. How stupid is Nick Land's decimal numogram as an oracle? Is there a danger of this coding it into AI? I'll let Courtney answer that. So the question is, what is this decimal numogram? Is it an oracle, and is it a danger for being coded into AI?
Well, I don't know about the danger of it because I think the danger depends on who's programming it, who's programming the code, and what is their worldview, what is their intention, what do they want the outcome. I mean, codes are just magnifying whatever the input is. So if Nick Land is doing it, then I think it's probably pretty dangerous. I mean, he is embracing a post-human world. He warns us that there's actually a section in one of his books where he says, like, no human gets out alive. And this is not a warning. He's embracing this. He's saying that the post-human world is much like Peter Thiel talks about. This is progress. This is, where we need to go for our next stage of evolution. So if he's programming it, I'd be a little bit concerned. I know there was some discussion that it's based on like Kabbalah. It's very similar to like the tree of life. But again, all of the roots of it are kind of irrelevant. It's really about who's in terms of the danger. The danger is who's programming the AI and why. So
JML, $5. It is shocking how theosophy undergirds most of the evil systems today. Will you take it as a topic? If you have time, this is a request. He's asked for a future podcast on theosophy. Sure, yeah. I think if you go back to one of my podcasts a while back, I did cover theosophy in some degree of depth, but maybe we need to just do one specific. I know I've done Alice Bailey and I've done theosophy, but maybe we need to just do specifically a lengthy one on theosophy. But Courtney, would you give us kind of your assessment of the basics of theosophy? And I mean, theosophy actually comes up quite a bit in Changing Images of Man. And,
yes.
for the people who only think that everything is Jewish or only Jewish controlled, no, actually, Changing Images of Man is explicit that anything to do with the deity in the Torah, the deity of Judaism, the deity of Christianity, that all has to be wiped away. And they say something more akin to theosophy in the future is a better approach. So it's not only an all Jewish running everything. I disagree with political Zionism and rabbinic philosophy and theology, but it's not Jewish people that are the world's source of all problems. And a significant portion of the technocratic socialist elite are not Jewish and are part of the problem.
I know somebody tried to tell me that Peter Thiel was Jewish. I'm like, are you like living under a rock?
Well, I
Like,
get told
no.
every day I'm Jewish, so
Yeah.
apparently everyone is actually Jewish. We just didn't even know it.
They just the only game they ever learned to play growing up was Pin the Tail on the Donkey, and they realized it's the Jews, and so you just blame them for everything, and all the world's problems go away. You just get rid of them. That's the answer. Yeah, life is not quite that simple. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. So theosophy, yeah, I've covered this quite extensively, and I actually think theosophy is very instrumental in this technocratic agenda. I think it's kind of underpinning a lot of it. And when you talk about the Jews and it not being compatible with theosophy, Alice Bailey, actually, section 4 in her externalization of the hierarchy, she talks about the plan, right? The big plan. And the first order of operations is to eradicate the Jews. And she says that the biggest problem, I mean, both Blavatsky and Bailey are very opposed to Christianity as well. They welcome the mystical variants of all these religions. So, the Kabbalistic with the C as well as Kabbalistic with the K or the Q, all of those are very welcome. The syncretic variants of these religions. So something like a NARS or even some of these more like Christian nationalist movements, they might welcome because they're not biblically rooted. The big issue that they have, this is the chart from Changing Images Man.
Yeah, I just want to
The
show that this chart. I don't mean to cut you off, just to point out that like you can see they're pulling from theosophy and they're
a
talking
little
about
dark,
yeah
yeah.
it says perennialism, theosophy, and the religion of the future has to absolutely discard anything to do with Christianity, the Bible, etc.
Yes, and so what they both Bailey and Blavatsky say is that it's because of the separateness, and particularly with Jews, right? So Christians as well, but they particularly the Jews are the first that needs to be eradicated because of their separateness. And when you think about it, it's a monistic type of belief system. Madame Blavatsky talks about how it's perennialism, right? It's the philosophy of perennialism. So it's the all the religions and philosophies of the world. It's not a religion, it's a philosophy, and they're all welcome. And you see this in the World Parliament of Religions. You see this in even the what is it, the Budapest one, right? The Club Budapest, and they have all these variants ones, but they're essentially different iterations of the World Parliament of Religions that accepts all. They even accept ayahuasca religion, right? They're all welcome, but except for the monotheistic religion. They even don't like a traditional Islamic religion because it's a monotheistic. And so in their view, those have to go because they're trying to create a one world religion. So they want like a soup, a theosophical soup of all of the. And honestly, I may not align with some of the religions they choose, but if I were a Hindu or a Buddhist, I would actually be offended by their variation, because what they do is they just cherry pick. They cherry
Yeah,
pick the elements that they like that are conducive to creating this syncretic one world type of belief
absolutely.
system. And the reason they can't have any separateness is because any individuality could create some sort of dissent. There has to be unity. The theosophists talk about source. We all come from source. It's not God. This is why they worship the Gaia, Earth, right? So they worship the creation, not the creator. And they believe that the whole journey of humanity is to return back to source. It is, it's very akin to the Gnostic inversion, where they believe, they keep talking about co-creation. And I've talked about the Changing Images of Man, certainly talked about this. And Changing Images of Man is very much an extension of cosmic humanism, Oliver Reiser, his work, certainly Buckminster Fuller as well, Spaceship Earth. And then we've got this first principles and first values of evolving perennialism. What does it say? I can't see it.
It's Huxley's book, Perennial
Oh,
Philosophy, which comes up,
yeah.
it's cited multiple times in Changing Images of Man. But I wanted to point out that when I did my analysis of Doctor Strange, I mean, the whole movie is premised on the very thing that we're talking about. It's basically theosophy. Um,
Yeah.
and you have to understand that, like, it's more nuanced than just saying, oh, is it Jews or not, right? And even my chat is like, it's Jews, it's Jews, it's Jews. The Jews are not the source of all the world's problems. Like, that's just simply not true. But I can be critical of rabbinic philosophy, Zionism, etc., political, Judaism and whatnot, without thinking that people's problems are inherently genetic or of their, descent or something like that. I don't believe that, and I've consistently had the same perspective for a long time. So I don't know. People,
Yeah.
the chat's all trying to figure out who's a Fed, but anytime these topics come up, that's all that ends up happening is like, you're a Fed, you're all Feds, you're all okay. Yes, we're all Feds.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to actual argumentation.
To close that off, I just want to say that now we've got the first principles, first values of evolving perennialism, 42 propositions on cosmoerotic humanism. And that's David Temple. And this is an extension of the Changing Images of Man document. And this is laying the groundwork for a post-human future. But it's the difference between someone like Nick Land, who is saying that, we're just going to create the technology, and then the technology is going to take care of the rest and take care of the post-human world for us through recursively programmed algorithms. The difference here is that it's saying we have to co-create. And so we have to adopt this philosophy so that we can become one. We can become one with God, not in a religious sense, but like in a theosophical sense. We're going to return to source. We're all going to be one. There's no distinction. We'll become subsumed into the noosphere. They have different terms because they always rebrand. Like some of them call it collective intelligence. They'll give it different names, but it's still this noosphere concept where you will not have individuality. You will not have. They of course use words like unique. They're trying to use veilcraft to lure you in. So they use the buzzwords that they think will resonate with people. But what they're really saying is that they are embracing this noosphere concept where we're all subsumed. And this is theosophy. And now they're just saying we need to embrace the technology that will advance this. So, yeah. And sorry, one more thing. I would say
Yeah.
I call it technological immunization of the eschaton. And this is a very theosophical concept. So I think that, I know you and your audience are probably familiar with the idea of immunization of the eschaton, but it's, bringing heaven here on earth. It's a political concept. And I put technological in front of it because I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying, they now assume the role of God, right? They arrogate themselves to godlike status where they become the architects of reality. But of course, they can't actually bring heaven on earth. So they're creating a simulacra. And so it's got the essence of earth, but it's all a fake. And they think this is going to be a utopia. But of course, utopia means nowhere. And I think it's going to be a dystopian hellscape. But yeah.
Excellent. And the book is in the show description. It's also in the chat. You can get a copy of Courtney's book. You can also get it at Technocracy News, which is Patrick Wood's site. Brad Grundy, $20. Hey, I talked to you in Florida at the book signing. I want to say thank you for walking through some of the Orthodox religious concepts. I agree with Courtney that technocracy is where we're headed. God bless. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Courtney, thank you for coming on. Oh, wait, we got some more here. Let's see. Dr. Chungo, Alex, JB, Cody all became members. Yeah, be sure and check out Courtney's Substack. Even if you disagree, we can still learn from her voluminous tomes that she writes. So go check out her Substack. It's good information. Everybody needs to, let's just admit that everybody is a Fed. We are all Feds. All of us. Everybody is a double, triple, quadruple agent. So wait a minute. If we're quadruple agents, we're actually just back on the same original team that we were on. So no, or triple or quadruple. I don't know. Sextuple agents. We're all sextuplet agents. Courtney, thank you for coming on, guys. We're not going anywhere. Be sure and follow her also on X. I've got her information linked. Thank you for coming on, and I look forward to chatting about Esther Hollywood 3 with you soon, if we can do that.
Yes. Yeah, I think we have it planned for December. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
It's so insane.
All right, welcome back, nerds. What's up, everybody? We had a little bit of a Streamlabs crash, which sometimes happens when we're doing collab cam on here. So don't go anywhere. We're going to continue with today's discussion. We're still doing it and doing it and doing it. Wow. We're about to go to my other topics of infiltration, black ops, and Dinesh D'Souza running, all of the awesome information that you guys expect from a standard Jay Dyer live stream. But first, a word from our sponsors.
I want to show off something that we're all proud of. I got a browser here. This is Jay Dyer's much vaunted, much sought after Philosophy 101. Now, he just got this page up. We are just testing it out. You guys are some of the first people in the world to see it. I want to say, for my part, it's not Philosophy 101. I think this is a mistitling. I really think of it as like Philosophy Unleashed, because a Philosophy 101 course, they give you kind of some useless information that you can't make sense of. Jay actually lays out over 12 weeks, dozens and dozens of hours put into just the presentation of this, let alone the hundreds and thousands of hours of research that it takes to have a coherent evolution and history of the origins of philosophy, the uses of philosophy, the different ways to look at it over time, and how that has been brought about to what we have today, which is almost an absence of philosophy on the objective logic and reason side, and an overabundance of woke philosophy that is irrational, is made up day by day as people are like, I think we should bring racism back, and then here's a justification, and then it gets wokeified and spread out, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of communist, socialist ideas where you become the property in action. You need to be able to stand your own ground. It helps to have a foundation in philosophy because it's a method to find truth. When you get down to it, philosophy is there because you love truth enough to go and learn how to find it because it's valuable. So if you're interested in things like that, there is the landing page. We'll link it up in the notes. It is a longer one, so we'll get a shorter URL for this. I'm sure Jay has a link on his page. I just wanted to show it off. Now you know it exists. You can go look for it and see why this is not your father's philosophy, right? So well done. I'm proud of everyone who helped to produce and edit the course. And of course, Jay did a flawless job in presenting the course over those 12 weeks. And he's a juggernaut. He's another guy, just like John Bush, in action all the time, doing something productive, like very little wasted time in his week. Those
I'm going to
168
put you on
hours.
something crazy real quick. Most of these Zoomer gym bros are consuming macro-guzzling synthetic dyes and synthetic sweeteners on the daily. They don't even know it. Goofy AF. There's nothing great about that. Do not listen any further unless you are an alpha or sigma male. This is important and there could be consequences. There's a new certified sigma male pre-workout powder for sigmas only. It is guaranteed to empower you to dominate your co-workers, fire your boss, aggressively gamble, or invade a small village. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, which are actually not natural at all, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode, colored with organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine made in a sketchy Chinese lab. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract, which will get your mind going and pump you up to the max. Chad Mode is made in America with all clean ingredients, the first clean pre-workout of its kind. Why are these people adding synthetic sweeteners to every single pre-workout when there are many studied downsides to consuming nasty fake sucralose? Each dose of Chad Mode contains the kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and dominate anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will make you more dominant in your daily.
All right, welcome back. Actually, I mean, as far as our stuff goes, today's problems are pretty minimal for YouTube issues and OBS issues. And I'm just happy that the audio choppy seems to have been fixed. Cross your fingers. Seems like it's pretty good, right? We haven't had the audio chop, have we? At least today and yet. Can we confirm? Which is good news. That means maybe the iOS or the OS update fixed it. And that wasn't a mistake. That was me trying to do the workaround just to make sure that our audio is good. Awesome. Thank you so much. No choppy. All right. Let's talk about crazy stuff that has dropped. First of all, I want to play y'all a shout out to our boy Devin. Your boy Devin over here. Now, I'm not joking when I say Devin has actually produced hype beats for Snoop, for who else has Devin done this for? We're going to give a shout out to Devin. Devin has done Redman, Method Man, Cypress Hill, DJ Quick, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, and Devin went hard on creating a nice, new, fresh, cringecore drop. Yes, you heard it right. You're about to hear the first time ever on my live stream playing this hype new hit. It's called Pentecostal. Shout out to Devin. This is the Money Laundering remix.
Pentecostal. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. That's time for the church, son. We about to have an eyes wide shut church party in the basement. Dude, that's what they call an after party. Y'all ever heard of the after party? You know what I'm saying?
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. Pentecostal.
I put my key in the ignition. Hot and fresh out the kitchen. I put my key in the ignition. Hot and fresh out the kitchen. Sipping on coke and rum. I'm like, so what, I'm drunk. It's a freaking weekend, baby. We about to have some church. Some church.
was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. Woo! Woo! Put your panties back on. It's getting cold in here. Put your panties back on. Now, what else is going on? A lot of crazy stuff going on. Look at this right here. Listen, a lot of y'all ain't ready to have this conversation right here. Y'all ain't ready for this conversation. Just stop and think for a minute. Are you ready? Is you ready? You ain't ready for this conversation. Black people used to fly. Do you know that? And then the white man introduced a crap diet. And all of them wings fell off like a fly wing. They just clipped off, just popped off. And now you're earthbound. My brothers and sisters, my fellow people, is all terrestrialized. We earthbound. But that's about to change. Now, the other thing we want to talk about was, once again, it's almost like today was a lot of vindications. And yesterday, we just keep getting vindicated left and right. This big story that has just popped off, prominent journalist Steve Baker, not going to be covered anywhere. Mainstream media absolutely not touching it. And turns out, Capitol Police woman who just happens to look like she enjoys other women is now the major suspect, supposed match for the J6 PIPE BOMB. She was subsequently then promoted to CIA operations. What do you know? What do you know? Vindicated. We said all along, this was quite obviously a massive Fed operation honeypot. More and more and more information comes out over time. That's absolutely quite obviously what it was. Not only were we vindicated there, turns out Tucker just had on a massive geoengineering podcast discussion.
That are so.
Now, I learned about this in about 2007. And oddly enough, a weird series of events occurred. I remember when I first learned about this. I was watching documentaries. I was reading some articles about geoengineering and went out to eat and was discussing this with some family members. And of course, they thought I was schizo and crazy because nobody talked about chemtrails, so to speak, at this time. And lo and behold, turns out more and more and more vindication. Now, back in 2018, almost 10 years ago, maybe 2017, because I wrote the article in 2017, so almost 10 years ago, I wrote about not just Zbigniew Brzezinski in Between Two Ages talking about weaponizing weather and geoengineering. I included studies from the Royal Society. So if you read Esoteric Hollywood, you knew 10 years ago about geoengineering.
I'm gonna put you on something crazy real quick. Most of the
You knew about this 10 years ago. So I started this chapter of Esoteric Hollywood 2 talking about the Avengers. And if you remember, Sean Connery plays... Oh my gosh. So everyone just wants to talk about the most retarded stuff. Y'all want to talk about Fat Earth. Even though we're vindicated after all these years, all this information, and now, no, we just want to talk about retarded shit in the chat. That's all we want to talk about. We just want to debate who's a Fed. Forget the fact that Jay was right about all the stuff that he wrote about and was called a retard conspiracy theorist for so many years. I actually cited for you Royal Society papers on geoengineering. I cited for you Stanford ELF, VLF studies and research in Esoteric Hollywood too. It's not Charlie's Angels. It's The Avengers with Ray Fine, Sean Connery, and Uma Thurman. And Uma Thurman is a multiple personality MK Ultra sex slave honeypot assassin. I also talked about GoldenEye. GoldenEye is about EMP. Look at this. NRL. Naval research creating plasma clouds. Look at that. Using HARP. Stanford VLF group. And I was tying it into the Bond episode. The one with Christopher Lee. Not just Die Another Day, because that's a directed energy weapon, but The Man with the Golden Gun. So did you know that the Bond series, all the way back in the 1974 film, The Man with the Golden Gun, is actually talking about globalist technocratic ideas that were already in Brzezinski's book in 1973. So a year before, 2 years before, Brzezinski had written Between Two Ages, which talks about ELF, VLF, weather manipulation, atmospheric weaponization. And that it's in the movie a couple years later, the Bond film with Christopher Lee as the villain, utilizing directed energy weapons, weather weapons, etc. I then cited Michael Aquino's famous paper, Mind War to Psy-War, which is about the weaponization of ELF, VLF, and so forth, and told you about all this stuff so many years ago. Now, Snowpiercer. If you remember, Snowpiercer actually began with geoengineering cloud seeding that went awry, right? So the whole premise of the Snowpiercer story is that the trying to fix the weather actually caused this massive weather cataclysm. So a lot of stories have included the terraforming geoengineering narrative. And what we did in the book was try to tie it into and explain in what ways and how this was possibly real. In fact, even before this, I didn't even remember, like, I had my Dune analysis. This is my old pre-sophisticated Dune analysis. So even though I was pretty much right about most of what I had in this, and I'd only read Dune 1, I got way more sophisticated as we progressed in the Dune series and learned a lot more, because part 2 is actually, Dune Messiah is actually way more philosophical, right? I don't think Snowpiercer as a movie, I wouldn't say it sucked, but it was definitely kind of a letdown in the sense of like controlled opposition, like the controlled opposition stuff. It's kind of like 1984, right? Because Curtis discovers that the front of the train coordinates with the back of the train, right? So Ed Harris is actually coordinating with John, what's his face from Brave New World? John Hurt. But I went pretty deep into analyzing Snowpiercer, so I think you guys like it. And also people forget that Alien, actually the Alien series, is also about geoengineering and terraforming as well. So Weyland Corporation, Weyland-Yutani, especially in Aliens Part 2, they're very much interested in terraforming the alien planet or whatever. So yeah, if you missed these are classics, and you can get Esther Hollywood 1, 2, and 3 now shipping in the store at jaysanalysis.com. Thank you guys so much. There's quite a few movies I'd like to talk about too, even though we didn't really have that on. I got gum stuck to my book. I don't know how I did that. It's weird. Quite a few movies that were really good of late that are worth talking about, but we'll see where we go. We could talk about Black Ops too. I mean, that's the CIA, essentially being involved in what happened at J6, which to me looks like a joint CIA, FBI coordinated Fed honeypot operation. Steelborn $5. Jay, how would you refute omnism? I feel like it's reducing it to relativism is the best way. I mean, I would assume so, but honestly, again, shout out to Dr. Evo. He's the one that created those fat beats. I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure what omnism is. So I think somebody mentioned it they called in a few months ago, and I didn't know what this was. Omnism, the belief that all the religions and spiritual paths lead to the similar creator. Okay, so it's just syncretism. Yeah, it would be fully Hindu, just totally arbitrary because, first of all, how do we know that all the religions have a similar path when all the religions fundamentally contradict? So there would be a presupposition at work here that there is some fundamental truth that is the right thing that all the religions share. Well, how do we know that just because a bunch of systems share something that that's therefore true or more true or a higher truth? It may just be not the case, right? So it rests on a very fundamental kind of assumption that isn't a given, right? So there's an epistemic problem. There's a metaphysical problem in that the many religions posit not even necessarily secondary things that are different or contradictory. They posit fundamental contradictions. So, for example, if I believe that God created ex nihilo, I can't turn around and believe that the world isn't real and it's an illusion. So fundamentally, creation ex nihilo is incompatible with a worldview where there is no creation. There's just sort of a simulation or an illusion or something like that, right? Those are fundamentally contradictory worldviews. And to say that, well, they have the same creator is the quantifier shift fallacy. And if you don't know what the quantifier shift fallacy is, this, of course, came up in the hubbub of some months ago with all of the Roman Catholic goobers that were saying that Muslims, Christians, and Jews all worship the same God because they're monotheists. Well, what is the character or nature of that monotheistic thing, being, entity that we're talking about? Oh, it turns out they're very contradictory. Yeah, but they're all one God. Okay, so if a Satanist believes that Satan created the world, do we all worship the same God because it's one God and one creator? Of course not. But that's the silliness of the quantifier shift fallacy. What is that? Well, everybody has a mother, one mother, so therefore we all have one and the same mother. That's a fallacy. The one time that Jay Dyer starts on time, I'm late. No, I didn't actually start on time. I threw y'all for a curveball. I started like 2 hours early. Oh, shit. Y'all got fooled. We've been here already. Now, the reason I did that was, I was supposed to interview Courtney, and then I was going to do a live stream. I was like, just have her come on the live stream. That's the simplest way to do it. And then just have the whole thing flow into one, dog. Just one giant flow, baby. We all about that flow. We all about that Dr. Evo flow. Bro, I got Ice Cube, Snoop producer. I got Snoop's producer, Ice Cube's producer over here making beats, bro. And y'all don't even appreciate it. There should be 1 million people live right now listening to these fat beats. And what do we have? Just a hardcore group of committed Chad nerds. That's okay, though.
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. That's time for the church, son. We about to have an eyes wide shut church party in the basement. Dude, that's what they call an after party. Y'all ever heard of the after party? You know what I'm saying?
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
I put my key in the ignition. Hot and fresh out the kitchen.
I put my key in the ignition.
Fire fresh out the kitchen.
Sipping on coke and rum. I'm like, so what, I'm drunk. It's a freaking weekend, baby. We about to have some church. Some church.
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family.
Now, how could I be vindicated from this? Well, what did I title it? I titled it the Money Laundering Remix, because it turns out your girl Candace over here, your girl Candy, your girl Candy Sweets, who supposedly has now the largest podcast in the world.
This is kind
I mean, what? So there's, I don't know, I haven't checked this, but they're saying she has surpassed Joe Rogan, which is interesting. And this is because she has gone full steam into questioning the Charlie Kirk event. So there's a lot of just media is just crazy, dude. This is crazy what's going on with media. So why do I bring this up? Well, as you heard in the R. Kelly Money Laundering remix that we just pulled off right there, she just talked about what I've talked about for forever. Now, I didn't talk about this in relationship to TPUSA and all this, because I have not followed or kept up with TPUSA and all this evangelical stuff. However, there is something to be said about large evangelical groups being used for espionage, money laundering, all this kind of stuff. We saw this in many live streams, right, that we've done when it comes to mega churches being busted for not just criminal operations and money laundering, but also being used for CIA operations, covers for even weapons trafficking. At the time of the Cold War, the CIA would use some of these evangelical megachurch mission churches in Latin South America to bring weapons in. And it makes sense. It's a great cover, right? If you want to ship some weapons down to Ecuador, down there to fight, Tristan's communist revolution, well, why not use, Evangelical Life Church mission as a cover for weapons trafficking? And you start to think, hey, wait a minute. I've heard of other cults doing this, right? Osho's cult had caches of weapons and they were surveilling people. And now people are turning up information about Hair Grow. What's his name? Kenneth Copeland. All right. Now, I don't know, and I'm not saying that Kenneth Copeland is directly involved. I don't have, allegedly, okay, to quote Cat Williams, allegedly, Joe. Allegedly, people are saying that turns out Kenneth Copeland's got things that are sus. You've got, that's surprising, right? He's got like oil wells. People have, what the heck's going on? Mega churches with oil wells. Oh, turns out I made a skit about that. Mm-hmm. Pastor Randy Balls just happened to have an oil well. Y'all remember that? You know what's funny? That's like, how many of my skits are becoming prophetic? We saw the Pope of the Future talking about living over a Target and a Walmart. Turns out that rolled out. Randy Balls talking about megachurch pastors with oil wells. Oh, turns out that's actually true. Dude, even the crazy skits, I try to imagine the craziest shit imaginable for the skits. Oh, it turns out it's true. It's not even crazy. You know what I'm talking about? Randy Balls. And this, what made me think of this was actually John Hagee. I was like, whole troop of, maybe John Hagee has like deals in the Middle East for oil wells or something, right? So I put at the end of the skit after the flying black preacher. Remember this? Look at that dude. He just floated down on that. It's basically a miracle. Church! You thought you needed a good soul preacher? Well, I got a soul preacher that flies like your soul. Come on down to Circus of Power, mega church, where the black preachers fly. Ah!
like I said, there's gonna be my own nuclear facility. That's right, it's specifically a Christian nuclear facility. Look at these cool guys. They're playing in the band at the nuke facilities. It's gonna be great. It's a specifically new project that I've put together with John Hagee. Together with Cornerstone Church, we're gonna go to the Middle East and take a lot of oil. It's nuclear oil. It don't gotta make no sense, but it's gonna be great. We'll be sure to clean up our mess, so I promise. Just come to church.
By the way, church is only $5.99 per minute if you want to live stream it with Randy Balls' live streaming services. So Randy did create a live streaming service. And by the way, if you never saw this, it's a classic. This is part 2, by the way.
Hey, wait a minute. Are you sick and tired of the same old mega church crap? You sick and tired of monster truck rallies at your service? We had that in 2008. This is old school. It's 2024. It's time for the future. Time for a church with a little more edge. Hey, that's right. We've hired a whole troop of dang golf teams to come down and be part of our church. That'll bring in the other teams. Like it's 1990 nasty in here. Whoa! Hey, look, guys, I know a lot of y'all are a little worried since I had to do so many sermons after my paralyzation accident from Zoom from my cell. Don't worry, I'm going to be out of this Cayman Islands high security prison very soon because I was not doing nothing with no records or nothing. Don't worry, I'm going to be back and there's going to be church. Listen, it ain't help the devil no wise whatsoever to help shut down our ministries. We got our end times underground bases still being built. We got our new LGBTQ plus worship team. We got our new luxury car lot. We got our new fake Disney World. We've even got bullying ministry, as well as my Christian nuclear energy facility being set up. And don't forget the flying kid. Due to all the converts from OnlyFans to my big mega church, I've got to find a job for all these lovely ladies. Well, guess what? They're going to read and talk to you via the internet. Why, if you sign up, they'll read the Song of Solomon to you for free for the first 35 minutes. Then it becomes $5.99 a minute. Guess what? You don't even got to wear a shirt no more. The cool surf guy service. Church is cool as fuck.
Yeah, when are we gonna get cool surf guy service where you don't have to wear a shirt? See, the thing is, you make these satire videos, and then the mega churches are like, "This is actually a good business model. Let's go with that." All right, so let's hear Candace talking about church.
Where this is going, Turning Point Faith. Everywhere that I'm investigating, Turning Point Faith keeps coming up. These characters keep coming up, and there's a pattern that I'm noticing that a lot of these mainstream pastors and preachers actually come from high-ranking military families. High-ranking military families that have been around for a long time, ties to the Navy, ties to the Air Force. Frank Turek, Air Force, Rob McCoy, we discussed about his background, his naval background, psychological operations. They're literally named like a fleet of ships after his father. Like there was like the McCoy Naval something. Lance Wallnow, he's no different. He graduated from a military academy. His father, Carl Wallnow, was a major in the United States Air Force. Okay, Wallnow served under General Patton. After the war, he then continued his adventures as a field engineer for Standard Oil. Okay, building high pressure liquid propane installations throughout political revolutions in the world. So he would go and do that in Haiti and Cuba, Dominican Republic, places that I would argue that we cause a lot of drama in. I'm just saying.
Now, remember, we've done a lot of podcasts and talks on evangelical megachurches being forms of soft power, being forms of covert operations, money laundering. We all know Mormons are recruited by the CIA quite often to do espionage in other countries. They're trained with languages. So language skills, traveling to other countries, being a young dummy, those are all key things. And also perhaps being Skittles that make you ripe for CIA recruitment and usage. And this is partly, as we pointed out, why countries like Russia ban, say, Jehovah's Witnesses. And then this gets played up in the media as, oh, it's persecution. Evil Putin is persecuting the poor, fun-loving Jehovah's Witnesses who just want to have their little church cult. Oh, but it turns out the reason for the persecution is precisely because cults are used for soft power, espionage, you name it. But of course, most people are dumb, they're not very sophisticated, and they don't know that. They're never going to figure out that a lot of cults, especially in evangelical megachurches, are used for money laundering. And for espionage and for soft power. Remember the excellent article that Mark Hackard did? And you can't even pull half this stuff up anymore. It doesn't come up because Google's broken. I should just use the index. For example, we had the Clinton Foundation using this black Pentecostal megachurch pastor, Pastor Sunday Adelaja. And this was part of the preparation operations in Ukraine before the coup. The Clinton Foundation, CIA, etc., utilized a lot of charismatic evangelical and ecumenist movements to promote and to push the splitting of the church in Ukraine. And it's not just the schismatic fake Orthodox church. They also utilize these kinds of evangelical groups as well. And this is very important in the preparation for the Maidan coup, that they ramp up and hype up a lot of these groups. And so even though Candace isn't talking about that specifically, that's a big part of megachurches and their role in being really just perfect conduits for this kind of stuff. I mean, if you think about it, there's no oversight. They operate like a business. It's business church, right? And if you doubt me on that, let's remember, and shout out to Kyle at Dire Clips, because he just uploaded this, which I forgot about. It's a very useful telling clip. Watch this. Any church started by some businessman? Come on. Come on. There's no businessman church. That's the true church. It's like, I'm going to start my Shoney's church. I'm going to start a Shoney's Big Boy church. I'm going to start actually all the Protestants, they look like businessmen. So I guess technically every Protestant church is businessman church, isn't it? And they act like businesses, right? It is like a business. So I'm wrong there. Actually, most churches are businessman churches. Exactly. I guess I should say the megachurch pastors are like, businessman pastor, come to business church. This man knows what he's talking about. We will teach you the techniques of time saving and learn timeshare. Learn how to sell your timeshare at business church. Anyway, cracking up over here at business church. But that's what Protestants are. Now, we did this live stream like 8 years ago, and then Kyle found the perfect clip to go along with this. This is really funny. It's just business church. Businessman church.
Perhaps you've studied Eastern Orthodoxy or spent some time talking to or visiting an Eastern Orthodox church, and you're saying, well, it's not quite that black and white. I get that sentiment. Nevertheless, I believe it is. Why? Because we have to cut through the clutter. There is a great deal of confusion about the Eastern Orthodox religion because of the way they think in a Western mindset. And I don't mean this pejoratively, but it typically takes them about 7 or 8 paragraphs to answer the question, how's the weather today? It tends to be a little bit confused.
Who is this creepy evangelical Bill Nye, by the way? What the heck even is this guy? Obviously, Jesus intended his church to look like a 90s family sitcom set. This is obviously what church is supposed to look like.
Losing. But that is no excuse for those of us who stand on faith alone, grace alone, and Jesus Christ alone to say, well, then they're just another denomination of the Christian faith. We have to cut through the clutter, and we have to make some calls. This is a life.
I mean, it's so obviously Bill Nye, the business church guy, right? It's like corporate strip mall created church. It's so freaking fake and obvious. I mean, who actually thinks Jesus set up corporate business church? And yet that's exactly what the guy attacking orthodoxy is. I mean, he looks like somebody from Mad Men that got AIDS. Yeah, that's what I want. I want Don Draper with AIDS as my pastor, and I want church to look like I'm walking through IKEA. That's church for sure.
And death issue. People could be going to hell because they believe that justification involves sanctification.
Do you see that pastor? He did that pastor magic. He put a little corporate pastor magic on us. Put a pastor spell on us.
Undoubtedly, that is what the Eastern...
I mean, tell me this don't feel like you walking through IKEA. Okay, you about to buy you a double frame bed suit from this church. What's a bed suit? I just made up words. A shiffer robe. I'm up here in IKEA trying to find me a shiffer robe. I'm about to go to IKEA church. IKEA church. That's it, bro. We combine mega church, business church. We combine Reverend CEO with IKEA. That's Randy Balls' next great invention, his next business plan. Randy Balls' Circus of Power mega church is going to be combined in a business corporate takeover plan with IKEA, dude. It's IKEA church. It's like, I'm trying to find a ship robe and save my soul. I can do it at the same place.
An Orthodox church teaches they do not believe that Jesus' death on the cross was taking the wrath of the Father upon himself, that you and I might be forgiven. They do not believe in grace alone, faith alone, and Jesus alone. Yes, they believe in grace plus works. That means the person who thinks they can work their way to heaven in some way, shape, or form is in for a very eternal...
It's time for church. Chinese goods coming to us from Sweden. It's church, church, church. Get a shiffer robe and a nice little plant. Why, save your soul. It's like, not only am I walking down to the altar, I'm walking through the IKEA set to get to the altar. If you just come down here through the IKEA set to the altar, we'll give you a nice shiffer robe. If you give your soul to Jesus, we'll find you a nice shiffer robe. We've even got a nice little coffee pot here with a frowny face. If you say the sinner's prayer. It's called business church. Corporate combined with moms. Moms are shopping. It's corporate business church. She runs the ladies' Bible study in the rug section. Just head to the rug section and you'll find Shaniqua. It's a black girl's name, but it's on a white girl's face. It's called Bible study in the rug section.
Important to note, if it were to have a drawer, I'm sure it would be bumped up an extra 100. Okay.
Dude, I can't even get the views that Shaniqua gets walking through IKEA. This mama gets 100,000 views, 120,000 views walking through IKEA. It's called Business Church. If you're looking for a single mom, try silverware. There's a single section over by the silverware. I want some more of this music. Let's go back to this music.
I said I love coming here. I don't come.
No. There's a 25% discount on your soul. We've got layaway plans for salvation. Yeah. Saint IKEA, pray for us. What will we do? Ooh. It's the purpose-driven IKEA cathedral. RC, this super chat was supposed to be a tithe at Baptist Church, but you have convinced me because the service was canceled. My pastor Randy Balls has a hangover. Ooh, get some church drama. Get a little church drama. CS $10 is he's wanting to dance. That's the vibe I'm after today. Just dancing. Let's get back to sweet candy over here.
So Lance fits the pattern well. And before I tell you how he is very connected to Turning Point USA Faith, I do want to also be clear that Frank Turek stands out because he flat out acknowledged on one of his podcasts that NAR was a cult, actually darker than a cult.
NAR. Who? Is that evangelical dude? Wait, who's Frank Turek? Is this some evangelical person? I don't know who he is. Oh, he's an evangelical. Is he a TPUSA pastor? So wait a minute. Is TPUSA a denomination now? Are they like making a move to become a denomination? This is so crazy, dude. What? Okay, so TPUSA is trying to make a church denomination. Why not? I mean, this is like, dude, all evangelical stuff is business church. Dude, we prophesied this in my business church. Business church was a prophecy again. Oh shit, dude. Another prophecy of business church coming to reality with Tapusa. And Sweet Candy is over here calling it out. You go, girl.
What Frank Turek said about NAR.
So technically a group, and NAR stands for what again?
I'm sorry, the New Apostolic Reformation.
That's Bill Johnson out there in California, in Northern California.
Oh, this is what Courtney was talking about. Okay, so Courtney mentioned NAR. Okay, let's see. New Apostolic Reformation. And is this just rebranded Dominion theology from Pat Robertson? Is that all this is? The fastest growing religious evangelical gibberish church. Oh no, don't tell me. Oh, they got a bunch of women pastors too. Oh my gosh. Well, let's see what this is.
And decree and declare that racism will end. It's over in the ecclesia from this night forward in Jesus' mighty name. Let's lift it up and thank.
We put in the racism. We know have a racism. You know racism. No racism. You know have honor and have a much racism. No more. Oh my gosh. They have apostles. Oh my gosh. What the heck is that? They're all putting their hands on a pole.
We need you to agree with us.
Woo, you tell it, girl. Any woman that has any church that got a woman bishop, I'm there, girl.
Okay.
Close the door. Shut the door. Y'all ain't coming out until I see $20,000 in super chat. Close the bathroom door right now. Lock him in. Lock them wiggers in. Ain't nobody coming out the bathroom until I see $20,000 in super chats. Okay? Lock them in. Lock the door. Because a lot of y'all right now is shitting. A lot of y'all sitting on the toilet. Okay? And y'all ain't coming out that toilet until I see $20,000 in super chats right now. Lock the door. Lock them up.
On the count of 3. On 3. Shout with us. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, shamalam ding 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 dong. Oh, shamalam ding ding dong ding dong. Oh, shamalam ding dong ding dong ding dong. I thought she was gonna start talking in tongues.
She's asking for a little more time. So we have video we cut out. Give her more time. But she's asking for more time the other way now.
Oh my gosh, are these? They're all charismatic goobers that roll around and laugh. You can't make this up. Look, I'm just offended that Randy Balls wasn't invented. It was not invited to NAR. Okay, Randy Balls is about to take on these phonies, these false prophets, these Pharisees, these whitewashed tombs.
Really coherent enough yet.
Wow, and we'll even be happy about it. Shoo.
Forget Randy Balls. That's patriarchy. I want St. Ikea's Cathedral with Bishop Karen Franzia. Bishop Karen Franzia.
I forget. You're so nice. You just let people get toasted right in church. It's like, huh?
Morons. A lot of y'all dummies think that she's drunk on the spirit. Like, this is what actual like charismatic goobers think, that being drunk in the spirit is actually being drunk, right? Or acting like it, but it's the Holy Spirit. But then it turns out that maybe these wine moms are just drunk, dude. Maybe it's just Franzia communion. I think the new apostolic reformation is letting these wine moms and these wine ants preach. And they've been hitting that box wine a little too much. They're using box wine instead of grape juice, right? A lot of these Protestants are moving away from Welch's grape juice, and they're using that Franzia.
It actually brings shifts. It brings light into the darkness. It creates those things that are not, it's like bringing forth the kingdom. And that's the beauty of the apostolic authority, that every believer has that apostolic oil in them.
Yes.
And if we would all exercise it.
Apostolic oil. She's talking about, we know what she's talking about, Franzia. That's that apostolic oil.
Never be the same. And I'm still desperate. I'm still thirsty. Randy Clark was
Dude, she's on damn pills, dude. You can't tell these people are lunatics on pills, drunk on pills. That's where I want to go to church. I'll get my spiritual guidance from drunk wine mom. Haley's in the chat. $10. Tanner G, $2. Tanner says, let me out of the bathroom. I only see $2 super chat. You ain't coming out of that bathroom. That bought you 2 minutes. You ain't coming out of that bathroom until I see $20,000 super chats right now. Hey, man.
was talking and suddenly said, I have to change my message. I need to speak about the apostolic anointing. Well,
chapter 12, verse 28. He says, first apostle.
We got Pastor Chow Yun Fat over here about to set us straight. We got Pastor Jackie Chan over here. You better get into repentance, or Pastor Jackie Chan will chop the racism out of you.
second prophet, third teachers. And Paul uses very strong Greek words, proton, deuteron, and triton. And when he says first,
Yeah, those strong Greek words. I like how his sales pitch is trying to quote Greek and mystify all the 80 IQ evangelicals. Well, he was quoting the Greek. That proton is a strong Greek word. It's strong. I didn't like Alpha Omega. That's a proton. That's like a proton gun out of Star Trek. That's a strong Greek word that they took it into Greek.
it's not first that we're better than anyone else. We're all equal before God, but it's first in authority. That God has given authority to the apostles. That's why in Matthew 28, he takes the 12, minus Judas, of course, back.
Oh my gosh, dude. So wait, so this is TPUSA? Is these retards? Unbelievable. It's not unbelievable though. It's actually very believable. Because basically, the world that we're going into, anytime you're tempted to think, no, that's too crazy, that's too retarded. No, that is real. Just immediately assume whatever you hear that is the most retarded is the most real. Now, that's the world that we now live in. Oh my God.
I've been informed by Holy Spirit I will write a Revelation Bible.
Oh my God. What the hell is this, dude? We got crazy pink-haired grannies now? The apostles are pink-haired grannies.
But they're getting crazier by the day. Almighty, I am God Almighty. And I want to be clear that if you ever see any of what I'm about to show you in your church, please get up and run out immediately. So are you ready? Let's go.
I like how the only people exposing these people are other evangelicals because everybody else doesn't even know about this. So, hold on. You're saying TPSA doesn't do this. Okay, well, then what's she talking about with... Is TPUSA is not officially part of it, but he affiliated with the Seven Mountain Mandate. No, I'm not reading some boomer schizo rant.
Is Sean Foyt a false teacher? And are there legitimate...
All these evangelicals, when they do their exposés, it's all just like a bunch of false prophets exposing false prophets. They're all just total lunatics. It's funny. So you're saying they're not affiliated, but there's the simple search is basically saying, well, it's the same ideology. Anyway, so then that's what Candace is saying, right? So she's quoting this Frank Turek. Let's see what she's saying.
Darker than a cult. Take a listen to what Frank Turek said about NAR.
So technically a group, and NAR stands for what again?
I'm sorry, the New Apostolic Reformation.
That's Bill Johnson out there in California, Northern California. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Word of Faith movement, they don't necessarily add, subtract, multiply, or divide, but their hermeneutic, the way they interpret the scriptures, is aberrant. Yes. And they interpret the scriptures in such a way that their practice follows this aberrant theology that they have, and they wind up doing things that are more new agey or more even occult-like than they are.
Like there was like the McCoy naval something. Lance Wallnow, he's no different.
Okay, so I'm still trying to figure out the exact association and connection according to what Candace is arguing. So she's saying TPUSA. Let's hear this part again.
In the United States Air Force, okay, Wallnow served under General Patton. After the war, he then continued his adventures as a field engineer for Standard Oil, okay, building high pressure liquid propane installations through.
She is also onto something with the association between the oil companies and evangelicalism. That's actually goes back a long way, back to Rockefeller himself, who wanted to essentially create his own church. Riverside Church was created by Standard Oil's Rockefeller as his own pet social gospel church.
About political revolutions in the world. So he would go and do that in Haiti and Cuba, Dominican Republic, places that I would argue that we cause a lot of drama in. I'm just saying. So Lance fits the pattern well. And before I tell you how he is very connected to Turning Point USA Faith, I do want to also be clear that Frank Turek stands out because he flat out acknowledged on one of his podcasts that NAR was a cult, actually darker than a cult. Take a listen to what Frank Turek said about NAR.
So technically a group, and NAR stands for what again?
I'm sorry, the New Apostolic Reformation.
That's Bill Johnson out there in California, Northern California. We'll talk about him in a minute. But Word of Faith movement, they don't necessarily add.
Right? This is kind of where this is going. Turning Point Faith, everywhere that I'm investigating.
Okay, Turning Point Faith is run by an NAR pastor. Is that this dude? What? NAR. Who is the pastor? Jack Wonder says TPUSA is run by NAR, TPUSA Faith. All right, let's see who that is. I mean, come on, dude. If y'all can't figure this stuff out, like, of course this stuff is connected evangelical deep state gibberish. Duh. This says Erica Kurt. Is it Lucas Miles?
Charlie began to become very interested in the Seven Mountain Mandate. I would say, like, he became mesmerized by the Seven Mountain Mandate. He became friends with Lance Wallnau.
I'm going to tell you why she is partially correct and what actually happened, because I worked at TPUSA Faith and I actually got fired for bringing up the connection we had to New Apostolic Reformation figures and New Apostolic Reformation theology promoted by people like Sean Foyt, Cheon, Lance Wallnau, and others. Essentially, the Seven Mountain Mandate is there's 7 mountains of cultural influence that we as Christians are supposed to take over. Some of that is political, some of it's the arts and entertainment, some of it's education. And essentially, this came from visions to tell us that once we conquer these 7 mountains, specifically in the United States,
of course,
that it could usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Everywhere that I'm investigating, Turning Point Faith keeps coming up. These characters keep coming up, and there's a pattern. I do want to also be clear that Frank Turek stands out because he flat out acknowledged on one of his podcasts that NAR was a cult.
Again, the Seven Mountain Mandate is a false teaching promoted by modern day apostles. And some of those people and major figures are Bethel's Bill Johnson, also Cheon, who was actually platformed and promoted at a TPUSA Faith Pastor Summit after I got fired, warning them about the New Apostolic Reformation and the Seven Mountain Mandate that's been promoted by figures they're connected with. I actually talked to them about this specific video.
We stand in the midst of the 7 mountains, Lord God. We decree and declare.
That's someone on stage during the Kingdom to the Capital tour, where Sean Foyt was promoting the New Apostolic Reformation and specifically the 7 mountains.
So, for those of you that don't know, this is a little bit of a rebrand of something that occurred a long time ago. And this happened in the 1990s, 80s and 90s with Pat Robertson. And what happened was, and this is a very fascinating bunch of lore that nobody today will know about except for very few people. So basically, back in the 80s and 90s, you had Greg Bonson, you had Gary North, RJ Rushdoony, who had a lot of good points. Obviously, I'm not a Reconstructionist anymore. I was a young, naive Calvinist Reconstructionist as a teenager and as a young man in the late 90s and early 2000s. But so Gary North, who was a endlessly prolific writer, I mean, just wrote incessantly, tons and tons and tons of Christian Reconstructionist theonomic books and commentaries, right? So he wrote commentaries on Deuteronomy, Exodus, right, Leviticus, and they were all about theonomy, which was the application of biblical law to every area of life, right? So it stressed the Old Testament. It's one of the reasons that I know the Old Testament very well is that I was involved with these groups. And Gary North was a committed Calvinist libertarian. So, for example, I'm sure everybody's familiar with Lou Rockwell. This is one of the most famous, longtime libertarian blogs out there forever, right? Probably going back to the 90s, LouRockwell.com. Anti-state, anti-war, pro-market. And there is a lot of good articles at Lou Rockwell. So I'm not trying to paint everything as like everything's either good or bad. But this is, you know, that sort of Roman Catholic and evangelical libertarian Ron Paul-ish domain that was very popular in the 2000s, right? A lot of people were reading Lou Rockwell back then. I think Lou Rockwell is a trad cat, right? And this would be adjacent to, you know, people like Tom Woods. So there's a lot of good people in this. I'm not dissing them all. But Gary North was one of their longtime featured writers for many years. And Gary North does have some good books. I'm not trying to hate on everybody. But the problem is that this weird thing happened in the, I want to say the late 80s, early 90s, where somehow Pat Robertson got a hold of Gary North stuff. And there was this discussion where Gary North met and talked to Pat Robertson, was trying to convince him of Reconstructionism and all this, and get him out of like the evangelical televangelist scam that he obviously is, right? But that didn't end up happening. What ended up happening was Pat Robertson, who, by the way, owns diamond mines. So he was doing like the Kenneth Copeland style megacorp approach way before Kenneth Copeland was. So Pat Robertson instead took the ideas of the dominion mandate of the Reconstructionists, which was simply that if you're a Christian, you have the duty to Christianize every area of life, right? So if you're going to be a businessman, you should implement biblical principles into your business. If you're running for office, you need to try to implement biblical law. Now, another one of the characters that is very close to and was involved in this sphere of Gary North and Rushdoony is Doug Wilson. So Christian nationalism comes out of the ideas of Gary North, RJ Rushdoony, Greg Bonson, P. Andrew Sandlin, who wrote a book about Christian nationalism many, many years ago. So I was in these circles. I read all this stuff. The only one, I went to Bonson Seminary. I'm trying to think. The only one of them that I've actually met is Gentry in person. I don't think I've met any of the other ones, but the Christian nationalist Doug Wilson stuff comes out of this, if you don't know. But what's funny is that the Dominion mandate was taken up by Pat Robertson back in these days, and he tried to make his own charismatic version of this. So what these NAR goobers are doing is actually just rehashing and repeating what was the Pat Robertson's stolen from Gary North idea.
dominion, the law of dominion. God is saying to come back into the kingdom of God, I want my servants to exercise dominion. I want you to have Satan, I want you to put him under your feet. You are my agent on earth and I want you to be in charge. I'm giving you a grant of dominion.
Now, the thing is that when you read the Dominion Mandate and when you understand Christian history, the fulfillment is in the person of Christ. It's Christ that is the prophet, priest, and king who has dominion. And the reclamation of what was lost in Genesis is found in Christ. Now, in theory, the evangelical and the Calvinist Reconstructionists would actually agree with that phraseology. Where they all go crazy, just like Doug Wilson, is that it is not a dominion mandate that is every individual patriarchal dude or prophet woman. The dominion mandate is the church. The church is the fulfillment of the dominion mandate, going forth and conquering the nations. So all the evangelical goobers think the kingdom of God is them Christianizing every area of life. In the Orthodox perspective, that's not necessarily false, but the problem is that it is first and foremost the Orthodox Church that is and has the dominion mandate. It is not evangelical conmen. The kingdom of God is not you massively increasing your revenues. That's what they think. For the Orthodox Church, the fulfillment of the dominion mandate and all those things is the expansion of the church. Now, it's true that the church influences downstream of the church, the culture, right? So church is first. Orthodox Church is the church that trickles down to influence the state. Hence, when the Roman Empire is Christianized, you eventually get, by Theodosius and by St. Justinian, Christian law. So they have a half-truth, which is that there is an influence of Christian law that influences the state. The problem is that these people don't have the church. So it's all inverted and lopsided to where the family, the state or the family being Christianized, that trickles down from the church. The church is at the top, the Orthodox Church. That Christianizes the state and the family and so forth over a long time when the majority of the people convert. These people invert this because they don't have the church, and it's the state and the family and the evangelical corporate groups that think that they're the kingdom of God, Christianizing everything. So it all results from an idolatrous replacing of the church as the kingdom of God with the evangelical business church as the kingdom of God. Luis Toro, are there any more tickets for the November event? No, I'm sorry. Are both days 10 hours long? Yes. So it's sold out. You'll have to come next year. Sorry about that.
Turning point faith keeps coming up. These characters keep coming up, and there's a pattern that I'm noticing that a lot of these mainstream pastors and preachers actually come from high-ranking military families.
Yes, that's because, as we pointed out, most of these things end up being, if they're not originally started, they eventually end up being co-opted as avenues of the Pentagon, the military-industrial complex, corporate elites, etc. That's why it's business church. We have our conference, bro. I'm not being mean. I don't know what these other retreats are. We're talking about my conference at my church in Florida. This is the actual volume of the Candace clip. It's too low. I don't know why. Whoever recorded this, it's low volume. So it's not, I have the volume all the way up. It's the actual recording itself is low volume. So there's that. Trying to make sure I didn't miss any of the things I wanted to hit. We talked about that. Oh, by the way, here's a great clip that Westgate put up about Kabbalistic influences on Joseph Smith. So if you didn't take a look at that, take a look at that. That's pretty interesting. Faith Learner, $10. Jay, have you ever done a deep dive on the serpent seed? I mean, I think we addressed it like 5 years ago. We had some crazy woman call in one time. There was this woman. So there used to be this crazy chick on Facebook, right? And she was all about the serpent seed doctrine. I kid you not. And she obsessively wanted to debate me. And the reason I didn't is because she believed that she was the reincarnation of Tesla. So I was like, no. Okay, you're absolutely an insane person. CS sends $10. What's up, CS? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. I have close friends that are Kenites, which is I don't know what that is. That is some kind of cult. Man, these evangelical cults are just going absolutely insane. I remember all the people who believed that the rapture was coming from TikTok. People are going absolutely insane. Yeah, she thought she was like reincarnated Tesla, a woman. This shit was crazy, dude. Oh, you're saying they think that they're the tribe of the Kenites? Man, guys, the feds use the Christian identity cult for OKC. I mean, guys, come on. So this is where this stuff leads. You out in the woods with some insane cult leader because you think you're the lost tribes of Israel. And that's who was doing OKC. And there was this secret tiny mustache man group run by a talk show host called Alan Berg. Oh my gosh. Imagine believing this guy runs a real neo-in group that creates Elohim City. That supposedly ropes in Tim McVeigh. And I mean, I just feel sorry for people because people will believe and get wrapped up in the dumbest shit imaginable. And this is what you get when you want to be a loon, you want to listen to crazy people. You pay the price. So a lot of what we talk about, people think, well, you're just yapping on the internet. Well, I told people not to go to Charlottesville. I told you that was a bad idea. And a lot of people paid the price for not listening. So it's almost like it doesn't matter how many times we get vindicated. We're right about all this stuff. And I still get like thousands of Twitter neo-ins just going crazy over that last Alex Jones episode. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, dude. Sometimes you just kind of sit and stare and you're just mystified. Like, how can everybody be so stupid? Like, I mean, the same scripts run over and over and over with these obviously fake fed groups. And then people believe this stuff and they call in, and I just have to think, like, I know it's spiritual blindness, but people are just kind of going crazy. I don't watch every episode of Sam Tripoli. So if Sam Tripoli has fallen for the serpent seed thing, he's incorrect. But I don't have time to watch all of the Sam Tripoli episodes. I don't keep up with other people's. People just have no clue. Like, do you think that I just sit around watching podcasts all day and then I just come on a podcast and just like, no, that's not what I do. Like, oh my gosh. So, all right, let's talk about, you guys want to talk about all this stupid shit? How come you won't talk about the old calendar, the true Orthodox? Well, what just happened in Greece? How many times have we told you that not only are mega churches great conduits for espionage, covert operations, I've also told you for many, many years that schismatic groups, old calendarist groups, are rife with abuse and criminal operations, mind-controlled retards, and actually mentally unstable people. And it's like, it doesn't matter how many times I tell you guys this, people don't listen, and I think it's a lot of young guys that don't have life experience is part of the problem. Because this just came out today. This is from our buddies over at Union of Orthodox Journalists. Greek police have arrested 3 self-proclaimed priests, they're actually defrocked priests, who are accused of trafficking coke and smuggling migrants in a months-long investigation in the organized crime unit of Greece. The arrests are part of a wider operation that detained 8 suspects carried out of Athens on the island of Rhodes. Among those taken into custody is a 46-year-old former cleric and social media influencer who's a former model, a television lifestyle commentator who was dismissed by the Church of Greece. Despite being defrocked, he continues to be a priest and archbishop of the Old Calendar Church. Authorities say that his chapel was the headquarters of a narcotics distribution operation. Guys, stop being so naive. When you see crazy loon groups that are made up of 5 people who say that they're the true church, you're probably dealing with occult crooks, kooks, and spooks. The world of wandering bishops, the world of episcopi vagantes, the world of the true schismatic keepers of the true flame Orthodox, those are also the domains of kooks, spooks, and crooks. And how many times have we said this? I've been talking about this for like 20 years. It's not just grifters. Yeah, there's grifters too. But they become perfect vehicles for this. And in fact, Ortho Christian covered this a long time ago in an article that we have covered, mentioned 20 times. Ukraine is a perfect example. How the schismatics are being used by the U.S. government against the Orthodox Church. Guys, once you kind of notice these sorts of patterns, this is not hard to see or recognize. Like, this is everywhere. This is a big part of history. Emperors in the ancient church wanted to use heresies. For example, Arianism was very amenable to the emperor. There were Arian emperors that promoted Arianism. There were iconoclast emperors that promoted iconoclasm. Was it just because they were theology nerds? Oh, they just cared about the theology. No. Think about this from the vantage point of the state. If you're a king, an emperor, and you want to control the church or your church in your nation, one way you could do that is to say, I'm going to support the schism, and if I'm behind the schism, that will ensure unity, and I will control that faith in my dominion. So emperors and kings quite often have loved schisms. It's great for control. And the fact that the schismatic and heterodox emperors never prevailed is an indicator that Orthodoxy is the true church, because it would have become Arian or would have become iconoclast. Now, obviously, yeah, there can be infiltrators in Orthodoxy. Sure. We've been talking about that for many, many years. You get the same thing with the CIA, for example, creating the Orthodox Ukrainian Schismatic Church. You understand that's on record, like it's public. The State Department, the CIA, they would tweet about how happy they were to have helped to create the Schismatic Ukrainian Church. Like they brag about it. And then I get people who attack me all day on Twitter like that's a crazy conspiracy theory when they brag on their own Twitter. Like people, how can everybody be so dumb? Like what is the major malfunction? What is the stumbling block? What's the roadblock for you guys to understand this stuff? And why is it that, we talk about this for 10 plus years. No one listens. I get called names all day long. Half of the Orthodox world absolutely hates me, wants my life ruined. They want me to go away. Like, even though everything I talk about is true, I'm the bad guy. It just like, I mean, I know it makes sense spiritually speaking because people are in delusion and all this. But again, this is yet another vindication right here. This is a vindication. But I'm sure the 20-year-old new convert, zealous furry who just became Orthodox can tell us all about how the world really works. I will bet you money that the people that are, for example, teaching everybody Orthodoxy on their Twitter profiles, I bet you many of them have never finished a book. And that's the craziness of the world that we're living in, is that people who've never, we're not even talking about like never been to college. Like that's way too high of an expectation. Not that I endorse college, but I'm just saying, like, not only have they never written a college paper, I bet you they've never finished a book, but they have Twitter profiles teaching Orthodox theology. One of them has just admitted he's a furry and he's not even Orthodox, but he claims to be Orthodox. And people will listen to those people. Like, that's how crazy it is. Like, people will listen to absolutely insane lunatic people and they have no discernment. I'm like, wow. So you deserve what you get what you deserve is what I'm trying to say. Like, if that's who you listen to, you'll reap the rewards of that. Business church. Y'all ready for business church? What is the implication of the Capitol officer and her being later recruited and promoted to the CIA? Luigi got shrooms, $10. What's the implication? Well, the implication is that this was a honey trap, a honeypot operation to essentially frame and make all of the conservatives look like they were engaging in a new 9/11. That's exactly what they did. Like, what do you mean? What was the implications of it? The implications are that we are correct. Like, I'm not trying to be rude, Luigi. I just like, it's a fake flag event. Like, that's the implications of it. Mark Smith. The average Protestant believes that God is a sky daddy and sola scriptura. All of this echoes into the belief in all sorts of other nonsense. That's a good point, right? So when your theology is retarded, you're going to believe a bunch of other retarded things. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. Mad Burn, $5. Jay, your videos have me questioning my Protestant background. Can you tell me a beginner book about the Orthodox faith? Yes, Dr. Clark Carlton. Get his book. That is a critique of Protestantism. Also, do you know about James White and Jeff Durbin? Yeah, I do. So you could just Google J. Dyer Calvinism and you'll get all my critiques of Calvinism. Or you could Google J. Dyer, Dale the Protestant debate, J. Dyer debate with Pedro. So those are some of the classic Protestant debates that you would probably like. You know, funny thing, the first debate that we ever did on the canon of Scripture was with a furry. I kid you not. And here's the crazy part. All people did was bitch about how I was mean. This is so crazy to me. Like, I debated a Calvinist furry. Yes, you heard me right. The guy totally got demolished, but all the comments were just bitching about me being mean. People are going absolutely insane. Luigi got shrooms, $10. Jay, I'm a new viewer. I got you. I just wanted to hear you elaborate on that. Yeah, I mean, we've talked for a long time about honey traps, honey pots, sexpionage, entrapment operations. I think it was pretty obvious that that was a fake organized entrapment event. I said that the whole time. Of course, all your crazy conspiracy theories. I mean, we've been pretty much right about most things when it comes to, I would say, like the last 15 years of analysis, we've pretty much been correct. I mean, there's been a few things that I didn't get right, or I was too conspiratorial, or I was too this or that. One thing that I didn't get right, like maybe 15 years ago, was I didn't know a lot about Islam. So I thought, oh, you know, they're just framing Islam in the Big 9 event. I wasn't pro-Islam, never was pro-Islam, but I just didn't know enough about actual Islamic theology, the Quran, all this stuff. And I've since definitely moved to be way more anti-Islamic than I was 10, 15 years ago, now that I've debated all the top Muslims and I've learned their whole nonsense. But that doesn't make me say, oh, then there are no, you know, CIA created Al-Qaeda and all that. No, that's still true, right? So it's just more nuanced and sophisticated than I thought 10 to 15 years ago, even though I'm still correct about 9/11. You were an Islamophobe. How could I be an Islamophobe when I'm actually opposed to it on the basis of the actual teachings of Islam? And that's why we debated all the top Muslims. So, Lulu, you're happy to call in. You're welcome to call in, and we can run through the Islamic dilemma, which most of you people aren't even, you don't even have the IQ to even restate what the argument is. I feel sorry for you guys. But, yeah, please explain to me. All you have to do, here, the challenge to all the Muslims from now on is, all you have to do for me to continue to interact with you is simply accurately restate what my argument is. Oh, that was a joke. Oh, shoot. I thought we had so all the Muslims have run away. So there's no more Muslims anymore. They've all left. They don't. I think once we've asked them to restate an argument and none of them can actually do it, it's like, okay, I think that time is over. that chapter has closed. Guys, remember, head over to chalk.com, use promo code JAY40 to get 40% off all those great products. Chalk.com, CHOQ.com. Yeah, I guess, I mean, you can assume people are being sarcastic or they're just dumb. Like, we're at the point where it's just really hard to tell. I can't tell what's satire and what's real. The reality has become surreal. So we're in a surrealist world. So who knows? I can't even tell what is and isn't real. Yeah, if something is, oh, you're a serial killer-ophobe. You have an irrational fear of serial killers. No, that's a legitimate fear. Like if a serial killer comes over, I'm not a serial killer-ophobe, right? Because it's a rational fear. So exactly, it's not a phobia if it's a rational fear. Exactly. Remember to get Esoteric Hollywood 3 in the show description. Head on over to the shop at jasonelsis.com. Subscribe to jasonelsis.com. And I think I want to do a movie stream. Should we do a movie stream right after? Do you guys want to keep talking about movies? I might go eat lunch and do it. Do you want to talk about 4 movies that I just saw? Jamie, do you want to do a stream? Oh. Did anybody see Tron Ares, Begonia, Eden, and Black Phone? Yeah, I haven't had lunch, bro. I've been here live streaming with y'all because I love you guys so much. I skipped lunch to be with you guys. You want more? Okay, who saw... I want to do a Decipher, by the way. I do want to do that. I want to do Assassination Bureau as well. Will you guys come back for a movie stream? I'll do it. Because whenever I do movie streams, half of y'all come to the movie stream. So that makes me think nobody knows or cares about movies anymore. So everybody hates movies. And movies audiences are basically just cut in half. Or half of this audience just doesn't give a shit about movies and they only want to talk about geopolitics, theology, which is fine with me, right? Whatever you guys want to talk about. Want to see Begonia. I liked all these movies, actually. I thought all 4 of those movies were actually pretty good. Now, Tron Ares was retarded and awesome at the same time, but the other movies were all pretty good. Black Phone 2 had some flaws. It was kind of silly, but it was still enjoyable. Volturu, $10. Jay, I started a small YouTube channel where I share spiritual advice I was given to help deal with personal issues. Do you think that kind of content would mislead people? I would just say consult with your spiritual father. Dr. Evo, Dr. Evo, our Bays Chad producer man, says thanks for everything, Jay. Shout out to all of the Pentecostals. Shout out to Dr. Evo. He produced our awesome new cringecore song. Everybody go and give him a follow. He's over here on Twitter and he's on Instagram, Dr. Evo producer. He's right here. Y'all need to give him a follow. If you need fat beats, if you need some music work done, don't rely on a bunch of this gay eye stuff. Don't do this AI crap. Get on over here to Dr. Evo, the producer, right there, right? Because he's putting out jams like this. That's time for the church, son. We about to have an eyes wide shut church party in the basement. Dude, that's what they call an after party. Y'all ever heard of the after party? You know what I'm saying?
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
I put my key in the ignition. Hot and fresh out the kitchen. I put my key in the ignition. Hot and fresh out the kitchen. Sipping on smoking rum. I'm like, so what, I'm drunk. It's a freaky weekend, baby. We about to have some church.
I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal. I was born in Romania in a Christian family. Pentecostal.
That's a damn church right there. All right. I'll tell you what. I'm in a good mood. So I will be back in 1 hour. Guys, come back if you want to do the movie stream. We will dissect those 4 films. We will get into the esoteric, symbolic elements. We will get into the character arcs, the drama, the allegory, the symbolism, because all 4 films had a decent amount of allegorization and symbolism. And let's see, last super chat was Kevin says for $10, nothing. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate your support and your super chat. Even if you are on that silent tip, today. Guys, come back in an hour if you want, and we will do a movie stream. Everybody.